So here's where we left off last time. We've created a simple login form using Twitter Bootstrap. We've formatted the form to our liking, and this all looks pretty good. But a login form isn't much good without first having some way to register yourself to a site. So let's create the corresponding user registration form. And we'll do that very, very quickly because it's a simple process, virtually identical to the one we just did. So let's switch back to our editor, and to make things a little simpler, a little faster, I'm going to select my entire login form, copy it, create a new HTML file called register.html, paste the contents in there, and I'll just delete the stuff that I'm not going to use. So at the very top, let's do the first thing. Instead of just calling this Acme, let's call this Acme Register. So this will be the title that shows up in the top of the user's browser. And rather than having the title login, let's call it register. Now the form is going to stay almost the same in a lot of ways. All we're going to do is add some things. So what we have right now in this first form group, and let me separate these so you can see them a little more easily, we have an area for a person to type in their email address. We have a place for them to type in their password. What other kinds of information might we want? Well, we might want their name, first name and last name. So let's copy this entire first form group and paste it above, and then paste it above again. And we'll change the name for the first one to first name. That's the label. And of course, we can't use the label for equals username because we already are using that way down here. So let's change that to first name, first underscore name. And then I'll change the type of the input from email to text because a first name is not an email address in most cases, I assume. And the ID has to match what we have in the label up here. So the ID becomes first name. And the placeholder, what shows up before the user types anything, let's just call that first name. Save. Now we'll do the same thing for last name. Label is for last name. The label itself displays as last name. The type is text. The ID is last name. And the placeholder will change to, no surprises here, last name. Save that. All right, so this looks pretty good so far. Let's go to back to our web browser and see what this looks like. So I'll just go File, Open File, find the register that I just created, which is in my TCS, my home folder, find course website, and open register. And there it is. So, register, first name, last name, email, and password. Now, is there anything else we should add to this form in order to ensure that people register correctly the first time? We want to make our users' lives as easy as possible. So one thing that users tend to do a fair bit is to mistype their email address. And when I type in my password, I actually can't see what I'm typing. So maybe it would be a good idea to have two more fields. One directly under email called verify email, and one directly under password called verify password. Let's go add those. Back to my editor I go. I find where I've entered the email address, copy that, and paste underneath it, and just change it to verify username. And I'll call this verify email. The type is still email. The ID is verify username. And the placeholder is exactly the same. So that's good. Now let's do the same thing for password. We'll copy the password section. And directly below it, we'll put in verify password as the label for. We'll change the label to verify password. We'll make the ID match what we have in the label, verify password. And we'll change the placeholder to verify password. Save that. Now let's go back to our web browser, reload this, and there's our registration page. Now this looks pretty good. And again, don't forget, if people hit this on a phone instead, it's going to look like this. It all formats nicely. It looks really good and really professional. The only other thing we need to change on this form, of course, is the text that's on the sign in button, because they're not signing in here, they're registering. So let's go back to our text editor, find the place where the button is, and change that to register. Now what we're going to do next, now that we've created this form, and we'll just look at it, it looks exactly the way I want it to look, what we need to do next is have some logic in here somehow that ensures that people fill out the fields that we want them to fill out, and that when they type in the email and the second verify email, those match, and that the password and the verify password also match. And in order to do that, we're going to use some JavaScript. And that's where we'll begin our next lesson. We're going to install jQuery and a couple of libraries and learn how we can quickly and easily verify user data. When we get a little further along in the course, you'll discover that we never depend just upon JavaScript verification. We'll do verification at the server level as well, but we're a little ways away from that yet. So right now, let's get ready and do some JavaScript.